The broadcast had barely begun. The on-air light glowed red, flooding the Times Square studio. Billionaire guest Omar Farouq, sharp suit and diamond cufflinks, leaned toward his mic. In Arabic, with a sneer, he muttered. "Why seat a black child at this table? She's nothing but a shadow." He thought no one understood. The American audience didn't. The anchor didn't. But the hot mic caught it crystal clear. 15-year-old Nia Carter, a Brooklyn sophomore sitting inches away, heard every syllable. Her hands trembled against her laminated guest badge. She was only invited as a student translator, a background presence. But millions were watching. And silence was not an option. Nia sat tall, voice steady as she translated into English. "He just said I don't belong here, that I'm only a shadow." Gasps swept the studio. The anchor's grin cracked. On Twitter, hashtags fired off in real time, #ShadowLive, #NiaSpeaks. Nia turned, her brown eyes locked on Omar. Then, in flawless Arabic, she answered back. "You called me invisible. Let's see who the world notices now." The billionaire's smirk evaporated. America had just met its newest voice. Control room chaos erupted. Producers shouted into headsets, "Don't cut. Ratings are through the roof." Anchor Rebecca Hale tried to steer the show. "Mr. Farouq, perhaps we should." But Omar waved her off, leaning forward with false calm. "Such boldness for a child. If you truly know Arabic, prove it. Translate history, politics, not childish insults." It was a setup. He wanted her to stumble in front of millions. Rebecca whispered, barely moving her lips, "Sweetheart, you don't have to. Don't let him bait you." But Nia's gaze didn't waver. She adjusted her headset, took a breath, and answered in Arabic so crisp it silenced even the linguists in the control booth. Then she repeated in English. "You want politics? Let's discuss the fund you promised my community center. The one that never arrived." The studio froze. Rebecca's jaw dropped. The control room fell silent except for the hum of equipment. Omar's knuckles whitened against the glass desk. He hadn't expected his own broken promise to surface, least of all from a teenager live on air. The audience at home leaned in closer. Something bigger was unfolding than just a language test. Omar forced a laugh. "Ridiculous. She's just a kid. What could she possibly know about international funds?" But Nia reached down and pulled a crumpled document from her backpack. The camera zoomed in, Omar's signature, dated 6 months earlier, pledging $2 million to the Brooklyn Community Language Center, the very place Nia studied Arabic after school. Rebecca blinked. "That's your handwriting, isn't it, Mr. Farouq?" Sweat gathered at his temple. He tugged at his tie. I cannot discuss private agreements on air." The hot mic betrayed him again, his voice cracked, excuses jumbled. Then Professor Samir Hassan, the network's linguistic consultant, stood from offstage. His voice carried with authority. "I confirm her translation. Perfect grammar, perfect context. She is no shadow, she's a prodigy." The studio audience, normally silent, erupted in applause. At home, hashtags soared higher, #NiaSpeaks, #NoMoreShadows. Omar sat frozen, exposed. His wealth, his arrogance, none of it shielded him from a high schooler with the truth in her hands. The red on-air light glared above him like a judge's gavel. Across America, living rooms lit with outrage and pride. Clips spread faster than wildfire. Did a teenager just corner a billionaire on live TV? In the studio, anchor Rebecca leaned forward, voice measured. "Mr. Farouq, the viewers deserve clarity. Will you honor this pledge?" Omar stammered. The polished billionaire now looked cornered, almost small. I will, the funds will be delivered." Rebecca's eyes flicked to Nia. Would you like to respond? Nia spoke softly, yet every word cut sharp. Promises mean nothing without action. The kids at my center deserve better. Applause broke out. Even camera operators clapped quietly behind their rigs. Producer Luis Ortega whispered into his headset, "Don't you dare cut to commercial. This is history." In Brooklyn, children at the community center huddled around an old TV set, cheering as their classmate transformed humiliation into victory. Meanwhile, Omar sat silent, every denial shredded on air. The studio, once his stage, now belonged entirely to a 15-year-old girl. With cameras still rolling, Omar finally bowed his head. His voice trembled as he repeated in Arabic, then halting English. "I apologize. To her, to the community, to all watching. My words were wrong." Rebecca seized the moment. "Tonight, our network commits to a new policy, zero tolerance for discriminatory remarks on air. And we recognize the power of young voices like Nia's." In homes across the country, families applauded. On social media, Nia's name trended above politics, sports, even Hollywood gossip. #NiaSpeaks topped the charts. At the Brooklyn Community Language Center, volunteers celebrated. Within a week, the overdue funds arrived, with double the original pledge, this time, publicly tracked. But the image that stayed burned into America's memory wasn't the billionaire's apology. It was a teenage girl, steady under the heat of studio lights, refusing to be invisible. When the on-air light finally dimmed, Nia unclipped her mic and exhaled. She didn't smile, didn't gloat. She just whispered to herself. "No more shadows." And she walked out, carrying not just her backpack, but the voice of a generation.